When it comes to music, I can spoof with the best.
Your sporting career is the best time you'll have, and you know you have to hang on to it for as long as you like, because everything else is pretty crappy.
And this is not lies. Stephen Rothschild has never spoken to Jim McGuinness in his life.
You're very welcome along to our Saturday panel. We're looking at the League of Ireland today. You can get in touch with your thoughts on 53106, or we're live on facebook.com/off the ball. So leave a comment below, or you can get us on YouTube or Twitter as well. Delighted to be joined in studio by Galway United's Alan Murphy, back playing with them again and also managing their under-17 side. Dundalk manager Stephen Kenny, and also Ian Morris of the league leaders, Bohemians. They sprint the league tables now, don't they, after the first day? That's the way it goes. Great win last night.
Fantastic, yeah.
3-1 against Shamrock Rovers. Proper atmosphere.
Massive. Crowd was huge. I think we were nearly touching on 4,000, which is massive for us as a club, and we're hoping that that's going to continue into our next home game in the fortnight. Yeah,
what are the expectations around Bulls for this season?
I think if you looked at last year, we finished very strongly, and I think we've recruited really well. The gaffer has. We've got players like, I think Paddy Kavanagh mentioned in an interview last night, that have bought into what we're trying to do, and I don't know, I think there's a quiet confidence about us, but to throw a figure up there or a number where to finish, I think would be naive of me.
Yeah, Stephen, scoreless draw last night against Bray. Few players still missing?
Yeah, like, to be fair, we've not had too many scoreless draws over the years at Oriel Park, and you know, I think last night, you know, Bray came with a game plan, and to their credit, you know, it worked. You know, we had all the possession, well, a lot of possession, and you know, Robbie Benson, to be fair, could have had a hat-trick on the night, but we didn't create enough chances for the amount of possession that we had, and we can play better than we did. And Bray nearly stole it at the death, did a good chance at the death, and Gary Rogers made a good save. So certainly they defended very well, and they were very competitive, Bray, and it was up to us to be more inventive than we were on the night.
You've brought in a lot of new players over the last few weeks, some of them even in the few days leading up to the season. Generally, how long does it take before you can look at your 11 and think, yeah, they're playing the way, they all fully understand what I want from them?
Well, ideally it should be in the first game of the season. You know, that should be what you be looking for. Yeah, I think ideally that's what you want, and that's obviously, but with a few missing and so forth, but we still had a strong enough team to win the game. And so, you know, we were sort of disappointed overall not to win it.
Alan, you have another week to go before the First Division comes back. You were playing Shells last night in the pre-season friendly. You're back after what, a 3-4 year absence? 36, must be one of the oldest players in the league at this stage. What's bringing you back?
Some people would say the 2 goals, but
so you're 1 goal behind Paul McGee to be Galway United's all-time record goal scorer.
Yeah, that's what some people are saying. But I mean, to be honest with you, I'm back because I love the game, and I'm feeling a good position that I can still give something. And yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity at 36 to be able to still tug out and play 90 minutes last night and enjoy it. Like,
you're on penalties, I hear.
Corners and free kicks as well.
Corners, free kicks, all set pieces.
A story there, Nathan, is that when I was manager of Derry and Alan played for us, I got, for away matches, right, we got everyone to pick a song. Because long trips, you're going Derry to Cork, Derry to Dublin, and pick a song and play it on the bus journeys. And, you know, everyone had their, you know, either the bands they were into or the techno music. But Alan was a bit different and went for Andre Pacelli, Time to Say Goodbye. But he doesn't know when it's time to say goodbye. He's back looking for that record now, you know.
How did that go down?
It was my shelf life in Derry.
I was wondering why it never worked out, but suddenly it all makes sense.
He was always a very you know, an educated player, Alan, and you know, he's had a terrific career.
So we want to talk about where the league is right now, where it's going, maybe even compared to when you were starting out, which was probably almost 20 years ago at this stage, Alan. Like, what barometers, Stephen, do you use to judge the success of the league? Is it the attendances? Is it the style of football? Is it achievements in Europe? Like, what should we be looking at to finally get to a stage where we look at the League of Ireland and go, yeah, it's doing all right?
Yeah, it's a wide-ranging question, Nathan. You know, I think as a coach, you know, as a manager and a coach, you know, you're thinking about ultimately the game itself, and how can you progress the game? How can you raise the standards to go and do well? Obviously, first and foremost in the league and the cup competitions, but then after that on a European level, how can you come up against, first of all, teams that are ranked alongside you in Europe, countries of a similar stature, and then after that, if you can come through that, to raise the standard and play in a certain way that gives you a chance of competing against the top teams in Europe. So you're trying to raise standards on the pitch first and foremost as a manager and coach, and that's your job. And the challenge is as a manager then when you do it and then you lose some of your players to replenish that and still maintain those standards. So that's the challenge for yourself as a manager, I find. You know,
is there almost a uniqueness to the challenge facing expectations around managers in the League of Ireland compared to other countries, that what you're saying is what most managers in every league face, is that ultimately you're judged on results? It almost feels as though there is an expectation that you will be managing the off the pitch stuff as well, that you'll be getting Dundalk deeper into the community, that you're always a figurehead for the league, you're always speaking on behalf of the league, that maybe that's a pressure other codes, other managers and other leagues don't have to deal with. Like, did you have that in Scotland?
No, I think ultimately when I come in at Dundalk, this is my 6th season now at Dundalk. Ultimately, I was the only full-time member of the club really, and bar with it, Paul Johnson at that time was the general manager, and over the even we could qualify for the Europa League, as you know, and in the group stages, and even then we only had very very small amount of full-time staff, and on the football side of it, I was the only member of the full-time staff, on the football side of it. So it's it is sometimes you have to go as a manager into your community and try and reinvigorate the club, and depending on where you are, you must understand the history of the club and so forth, and try and reinvigorate the passion. Say for Dundalk, there were 7 years in the first division, so that was a long period. A generation of support was lost, and you got you had a great traditional support. So you had grandfathers and grandchildren, maybe in the generation in between was missing, but so it is your job. You do have a duty to sort of try and galvanise that, but you can't do it on your own. You need every manager, and you need a whole club to. You can't be relying on one or two individuals. You need a whole club to be run in such a way that it really galvanises the whole community. Yeah,
Galway have gone through that process, I guess, with the club almost folding and then the co-op coming in and taking over. Have you noticed a big change then coming back, and even still been around with the underage setup, that it's more community-based focus?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's a work in progress, I suppose, is the best thing to way to put it. But definitely with the Galway city is kind of has widened now. It's more of a Galway county in terms of the catchment area, and trying to grow the club. Like when you look back at Stephen's one, I mean the job that he did at Derry and in Dundalk. I mean, in terms of one thing comes to mind of getting all those players to buy into actually living in the locality was one of the things that you always were huge about, and trying to get the non-travelling player in terms of that was kind of the way it was 4 or 5 or 6 years ago, and that you got a few Dublin players and they used to arrive at games, and the bus might be very low on numbers going to a game, but I mean I think that was key for both your successes and the Derry the second time especially as well. But yeah, I mean Galway is a difficult one at the moment, because it's I mean obviously first division football budget is low in comparison to some of the other ones, and but
that's probably not really a football town in the way that Dundalk has very much always been traditionally a football town, same as Derry, probably same as Sligo as well. Yeah. Whereas Galway, you could argue, until maybe Connacht's success, wasn't even a sporting town, that you'll often see not great crowds for the hurlers, for the footballers, for Galway United. Connacht seemed to change that.
It's culture as well. I mean, Galway probably, what did they say, the cultural capital of Europe. Like, I mean, so there's a lot of other stuff going on. Galway races, arts festivals, all that, and I mean, at times that's a huge distraction also to sport.
Do you get full buy-in in Dundalk from from all the local community, because I think that's obviously one of the big issues, and maybe the underage setup around is probably slightly different from a big city to a town the size of Dundalk, but like in Galway, clearly there have been traditionally, going back decades, issues between Galway United, Salthill Devon, Merview United, which has reared its head again this week, where Galway United no longer have a training facility because you used to rent it off Merview United, and because of issues with underage players in the new under-15 league and players going from Merview to Galway, that seems to have broken down. The Galway FA chairman resigned before Christmas over his frustrations at maybe the Galway FA not being behind Galway United. Like, it doesn't seem like it's a very cohesive plan in Galway, that rather than Galway United being the focal point and everybody coming in behind it, that actually there's a lot of divisions.
There is a lot of divisions, and there's a lot of, being honest, there's a lot of work going on at the back of the background trying to patch this up, but unfortunately, I mean, obviously the 15s, 17s, 19s were introduced pretty quickly, and there was always going to be teething problems in terms of local clubs and the buy-in and trying to get the best players to play at the highest level. And look, that's going to continue for probably another short period of time, and obviously when the 13th season, when the 13s kicks in as well. But I suppose looking at Galway United, and because of the fact that the co-op now own the club, I mean, it's now probably back to those guys and back to the wider group in terms of growing the club and growing the locality and training facilities. And I mean that there needs to be a long-term plan now, rather than that year to year patching things up. There needs to be a long-term plan, and that only can happen though with buy-in from local clubs and from again, attendances is a huge one. You need to get attendances, which this season could be. Actually, it could work out a little bit better because of the fact that Galway people tend to support their club, whether they're in the Premier or First Division. Instead
of having one of the smaller crowds in the Premier, you'll have one of the larger crowds, and also probably more chance of success. People want to get behind the team that are going well.
That are winning, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, like, look at it last season. Like, just looking at some of the stats. I mean, Galway had over 2,000 and 2-2 at the first game. At the last game, they had just over 1,000. I think Dundalk were similar in terms of, I think their first game was 4,000 and the last game was 2,000. So I mean, that's the nature of the. And like, if you look at the crowds last night as well around the league, I mean, they were well up. But I mean, it's to do with I suppose especially last year when Waterford had the First Division tied up, probably before the season finished. So the crowds went down, and like, I suppose Cork. When you look at Cork and looking at some of the stats, like, I mean, 50,000 people went to Cork games last year. Like, you know, I think that was their overall. For all the home games, it added up to 50,000. I mean, that's unbelievable. Like, and it's obviously it's a huge city in terms, and the buy-in as well and they're doing well. But yeah, I mean, that's something to aspire to, and again, that co-op type of an atmosphere.
Yeah, and the type of atmosphere we saw at Dalymount last night, which in some ways is a great success, that it's sold out 2 weeks in advance for a Dublin derby against Rovers. And on the other side, then there's parts of the ground that can't be opened, and there's not the money there to invest in it. Just on what Alan was saying then about maybe the underage, the new underage system that's coming through, 13s, 15s, 17s. Bohs have done a lot of good work in the community over the last while, seem to have got really good buy-in from people on the north side of Dublin. Is that a potential? I know the deal is done with St. Kevin's, who've been the most successful probably underage club in terms of providing players to the senior team. How difficult has that been? You're a youth development officer as well with Bohs, to sort of go down that path of integrating Kevin's at underage level, of having your own underage system, and basically not just pissing everyone off, that you're taking their best players and now they're getting nothing in return?
Well, I think it was really a no-brainer as well in terms of locality with Bohs and Kevin's. And like you say, if you're looking at the League of Ireland underage system, you're wanting to try to get the best players playing against each other in the best league, and that's going to strengthen the league going forward for players coming in to make first team debuts. So Kevin's have been producing young players all the time. So with myself, Alan Caffrey, Conor Emerson, the youth director, we sat down quite a lot. Ken Donoghue, we talked about it and got that deal over the line. And obviously Bohs youth section, I think we're up to 18, 19 youth teams as well. So there's the pool for us to choose from is massive. There's a lot there in the community now. We've got the More Than a Club, so they're helping out in the community. We're in schools, we're doing the walking football. So there's a lot going on from Bohs, and I think that comes down to the culture of the club. We're getting people to buy into what we're doing as a club. So you're not trying to market individual players, or you're not trying to promote individual players. You're promoting a club and kind of getting new fans and getting them to buy into, come to Dalymount. It's a great place to come to. And like after the game last night, there was stuff on after the game to keep fans there, and you're building a massive core fan base, and that's important going forward as well. I think Stephen touched on it as well. Like, you don't want to miss out on a generation. I think the Terraces Not TV, a little video that was done was excellent. I think I was talking to Daniel Lambert last night, and he said in the whole video, I think there's only 4 seconds of football in it. So it wasn't just about that. It's about a father and a son going to a game and the atmosphere, and
rather than say last night sitting at home
like,
watching Chelsea in the FA Cup and BT.
100%. You ask any young kid that was there last night, what did they think? I'm sure they were blown away with the atmosphere and with the whole night as an event. And obviously the result helped if you're a Bows fan.
Yeah,
that's a big thing I noticed about since in Dundalk, and everyone comments on it, that young children walking around the towns in Dundalk here, it didn't happen 5 years ago. Everyone, in either whether it be hooded tops or any sort of jackets or jerseys or whatever, and there's a huge, that was something that didn't exist 5 years ago. So there's a massive, you can see a massive change in that.
Kids wearing like their club jackets into school, like that's massive. That would have never been done previously. If it was rare, but now it seems to be common practice.
Who've Dundalk linked up with at the underage level?
Well, we're in partnership with all the clubs in Dundalk and the Dundalk Schoolboy League. Because ultimately, that's we're immersed in our community with the Dundalk Schoolboy League and all of the various clubs. Some great clubs in the Dundalk Schoolboy League, but also there's links with Malahide United, who also have a great setup there. The director of football there is Kevin Craven, and we have links with them.
Right. Is that an extra layer suddenly of responsibility for you as first team manager, that suddenly you're looking down in the 17s, the 15s, or is it a totally separate entity?
It's part of it. I think very good people there. You talk about the 15s and 17s, 2 ex-players managing them teams there. Liam Burns managing the 17s, and Tiernan Mulvenna is managing the under 15s.
Right.
So they're both, Liam's from Belfast, but he's based in Dundalk, and Tiernan, was a homegrown player coming through Mahevna Moor and into Dundalk, and so they're doing a good job. I think it's a different fit, say, than say Bohemians, Dundalk. We're trying to get players from the locality through. I think obviously the thing with Derry, the similarities with Derry and Dundalk, and you braced on it, you touched on it earlier with Galway. The challenge is sometimes, as you say, are you competing with clubs in your own vicinity for players? And that's a big thing. I used to have it at Derry as well, where we didn't have 12s, 13s, 14s. The players came in at 16. Like when James McLean came in, he came in from Trojans, which was a schoolboy club, or any of those, any of those players. Paddy McCourt would have come from Foyle Harps and all of those players. So we didn't compete at 9, 10, 11 with those clubs, because you're alienating. They're all part of your community. So what are you doing? Poaching their players and taking them and then beating them within the same league. So that's what happened. And Dundalk as well, with all the teams that the Woodview, the Rock, Celtic, Mahevna Moor, all these teams, we're not competing against them. They're part of it, the club. That's the way you would feel. And I think so that's it. But now because the National League, now the National League with the 13s, 15s, 17s and 19s, that changes the dynamic there, really. Players want to aspire now to play for the club, so that has helped in that regard.
That's hard to get that balance right, though, isn't it? Between, like, Kevin's have this tradition. Merview United and Salthill Devon will say, well, we brought these kids up from when they're 8 or 9. Galway United have no great tradition at underage level, despite being in existence for half a century. They've no great tradition of going into communities and doing good. So why should we just bring these players up for 7, 8 years?
At the end of the day, I suppose you have to look back at it, and I mean, you have to do what's best for the kid. And I mean, if a kid is wherever the kid has come from, and it's more important where the kid is going. I mean, can the kid play at the highest level? And the appetite, obviously, the appetite has to be there. But I mean, we need to give that opportunity to the player as well. I mean, if it's no disrespect to any local leagues or any that kind of thing, but I mean, when winning cricket score games and that doesn't develop the kids. I mean, I even look back at our 17s last year. I mean, we had 20 squad players, and I mean, I think I looked into it last night. We played like the X amount of games where all of the subs were used. I mean, there were very, very tight games. The players had a huge experience and got to play in big arenas where you're talking about. We went to Shamrock Rovers. You're playing in Tally. You go to the main pitches where that has to be a goal for the development of kids. And
but what happens to the next level? So say under 15 level, Galway United take the 5 best players from Merview to go and play in the National Under 15 League.
Yeah. What
happens to the 6th best player at Merview, who's now suddenly the best player at that club? Like, has he missed the boat?
Well, I mean, he might have missed the boat that year, possibly. But I mean, there's 5, 6, 2, 3. I mean, it's always a numbers game. I mean, but that 6th player, you could argue on the flip of it, will he now get to actually shine a little bit more because of the 5 are gone, and possibly be the one that'll in 2 years' time be the one that'll actually overtake the other 5 because he was actually better, but he didn't get he was being kind of pushed down, like, you know. So I mean, there's arguments each side, but I mean, I do understand where local clubs come from in terms of losing players, but I mean, you probably do need to look at where the players have come from as well, and how long they've been at the clubs, and you know. Like it is important for local clubs to win Irish Cups and do well in that, but it is also important for the players to move on and play at the highest level, I think.
I do think there is a flaw though in the system, because, you know, it is great work, people doing work under 13, 15, 17s and under 19, but unlike other leagues throughout Europe, under 19 is the final league before the first team. It's massively flawed. Like, for example, if a player, we have a goalkeeper, a young goalkeeper, Ross Tracy, who just come back from Swansea. Now, he was just turned 19 in September, but he's too old to play for our under-19s. So there's no football for him.
Yeah.
Unless he plays in our first team, there's no football.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, for the elite teams, like, you know, that are challenging the top end of the division, it's very difficult for an 18-year-old to go straight into that level. Now, there will be exceptions and players that are good enough, but so if he's not, you know, if he doesn't play in the first team, he doesn't play. You know, once he's 19.
Yeah, well, I've heard Brian Kerr say as well. You need a reserve league.
It's well, whatever about reserve league, at least under 21 league, or minimum under 20. You know, but the fact that when you turn 19, that's it. If you're not in the first team, like, I think there'll be a huge dropout rate. To you know, it'll strengthen the Leinster and Munster senior leagues and Ulster senior leagues. You know, there'll be a huge dropout rate. I think that's a massive. You know, England have under 23, under 21, and under 23. Germany have under 23. We're stuck at under 19. You know, so I think I know there is a thing you can have players for too long, but certainly. You know, there's different rates of development, and that
even with the under 23 leagues in England, you're allowed to have 3 overage players playing it. Like, you could have a first team player who sits on a bench for 6 weeks and doesn't play a game, and all of a sudden there's an injury or suspension, and you're expecting that player to be up to speed with other players who just played 6 games on the bounce. So I think that there can be little tweaks made to it, that you are giving older players the opportunity, and as well, under 19 players, once they hit the age where they can't play on the 19s again, a manager either has to put him on an amateur or start paying him, and that's a big ask for a manager to take money out of his budget. I'm sure.
No, I don't mind. It's not a financial issue for us. It's just a matter of.
Aren't you lucky?
No, I don't mean that. I just mean, you're only talking about a small amount of money, but I'm not talking about. I'm not. But I think that's the reason they have it. One of the reasons they have it, they don't want to.
It's a platform you want.
You know, but I think.
So you're noticing a fall off. Are you noticing that actually guys you brought through all the way?
I think the problem is players getting football that they need. They need to play regular matches. You know, players need to be. If they're not playing in the first team, they need to play, and they need to play matches. And under 21 league, that'd be ideal. You know, if teams are playing every week and playing good quality matches. Plus, the gap between the under 21 league and the first team is less. The gap between the under 19 league and the first team is just too big. Like, it's a massive gap.
So what are you doing? Are you sending players out on loan?
Well, we have done that, you know, and that with mixed success. We're learning ourselves about it, you know. We're still learning ourselves. Like George Poynton was at Bohemians last season with Kieran O'Connor at Finn Harps, but you know, we've Carlton. It was on at Galway this year. Who you know, hopefully Carlton does brilliant. Is a great attitude. But certainly. You know, we're learning. You know,
you're almost having to make a decision too early on a player's future, instead of waiting until they fully develop.
If you're in Dublin, it's okay. You can go to clubs, but geographically, like, say a fella's not getting in at Galway and he needs to play, where's he going to go on loan? You know, where how could he commute? Or he can't. Like Carlton is lives in Dundalk, but he's had to commute or relocate to Galway to go on loan. You know, so it's difficult to do that. You know, I think. You know, so these are you know, you have college considerations, everything. So you know, these are all factors.
And just related to that, like, I mean, when you look at it locally, even in Galway, I mean, that exact scenario is there, because I mean, you look at a player that's finished 19s now with Galway from last season and possibly isn't good enough yet or isn't developed enough yet to play in the first division with Galway. Then you look at, well, where is this next step? Well, it's junior football in Galway, and I mean, if you look at the age profile of junior football in Galway, it's an over 35s league nearly. Like, I mean, you look at we'd say Merview, even that are in the last 8 of the Irish Cup now, that like most of those players would be well into their 30s, like, you know. So I mean,
probably lads who've played for Galway 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's
so an under-21 league would essentially still be a development league where the entire thought process is how can we make these players better. Whereas, as you say, if you get back to junior football, the standard drops massively, and there's almost an unnecessary level of competitiveness there for a 19-year-old.
Well, I don't think we're necessarily saying the players have to be 21, but even let them be 19. You know, that kind of way, at least. You know, that kind of way. So that's the way I would feel.
Do you think then that with this introduction of 13s, 15s, 17s, that it is going to change the culture of players going to England at 15, 16?
I don't have the answer to that. It'll be interesting to see. I'm sure the really elite players will still have clubs, and you know, just the sheer number of agents now who are picking up 13 and 14, 15-year-old players, you know. So there will be plenty of offers for those players. It's up to their players and their parents whether they want to go at such a young age, and you know, it's trying to create a pathway that's legitimately you know, can compete with that. You know, I think the money can be, the financial rewards are quite high for some kids going over. For some they aren't. You know, for some it's just basic schemes and so forth, but some, for the really elite players, they can be financially quite high. But can we create a system where combining education and football can, you know, where you can flourish?
You've quite a few players who come back from England, and even over the last few weeks you've added a couple of them. What's the big difference between a 21-year-old who spent 4 years in England and a 21-year-old who's come through the system here?
Don't trust anyone when they come back from England. Don't trust anyone. You know, you don't connect with someone like that straight away. The trust issues, and you know, that's what you find. Like, you know, that certainly they're more streetwise. You know, you feel, haven't been away for a while, and they everyone is different. You can't generalise. You know, every individual is different. But I think it's you're not going to straight away transform someone. I think it's a period of sort of evolution. Like it's a period of time before they can adjust to being home. Some people have been away since they're 15, they're coming home, they're 20 now. You know, they're not used to having home cooked meals even in their family home, and they really enjoy that and really enjoy being home. Other people have been living away from their families and want to continue to do that. You know, they're used to their freedom. So every individual is different, and
you don't know if they're coming home to have a prolonged career in the League of Ireland, or whether they're coming home with the hope of getting straight back over in the next year.
I think it's great opportunities when they come home, or you know, because now, but previously, like say, obviously 15 years ago, say for example, when they used to come into a part-time setup that trained twice a week, and they struggled to adjust to that, and their fitness levels would drop, and they would never get back, maybe, you know, or struggle to get back. But now they're coming into great environments throughout the league. Now, eight of the 10 teams are full time, and Bohemians and Bray, they train every day, every evening anyway. So you know, it's, you know, so they're good environments, and certainly you know, so it's whether then they're good enough, you know, once they come back, you know.
Yeah.
People assume because they've been away, but it's not always the case. A lot of the time, they're not playing matches over there. You look at how many matches they played at any level, and you know, they come back disillusioned, and it's a matter of rebuilding their confidence and watching them try and fulfil their potential.
Is the aim for Bohs to get back full time?
I presume it is, yeah, but I can't answer that question. Just on the youth system, I think it's the way forward for the country to go. I think the best players playing against the best, but the education programme as well going through, and you're getting players like the coaching over here now. I think is on a par with the coaching in England. That like I wouldn't be disillusioned with that, thinking it's better coaching over there, because it certainly isn't. And you find with players coming back, they're going to be. Most will be over the age to play under 19 anyway, so they have to go into full-time first-team environment, should I say. And coming out of under 23 football, under 18 football in the UK, it's nowhere near the tempo or the level of first-team football in Ireland. So I think players coming back can be a little bit disillusioned, or take a little bit of time to adjust to the tempo and the pressures of first-team football, really, because they haven't been exposed to it. So I'd say
you do see that when you watch, say, FA Youth Cup games, even at the very highest level. If it's Chelsea, Manchester City, it's almost like some sort of fantasy football where it's 100 passes for one team, 100 passes for the other. Nobody actually kicks anybody at any stage. It's so structured that it must be quite a shock actually when you come back, and as you say, you're going up against a 30-year-old veteran. It's quite a steep learning curve.
Oh, massive, and that's something that you kind of have to allow for with players coming back, and to kind of introduce them, and having good changing rooms as well, and having good senior pros is something that will help that.
I think we are, though, equipped as a league, a lot better equipped than we were 7, 8, 10 years ago, because I mean, when Stephen said you had a league where we trained twice a week, maybe with kids coming back from England. Now we have a league where they, if they can show some kind of an appetite when they come back, I mean, they can really thrive pretty quickly, because obviously they have been full time. They have a base built up, and I mean, if they can kind of build very quickly on that base again, and also with the appetite and I suppose the vision of maybe getting back over there again, and you see all the different examples in the last few years of players that have gone over at a late stage, like.
Are we doing enough in terms of education with young players? Like, could we be doing more in terms of link up with colleges? Is that something that Dundalk will be looking at as a way of keeping guys who are 17, 18?
Yeah, well, we've been doing it for a few years now. We've good links with DKIT, and we have scholarship system, and every year we've had 3 or 4 scholars from our youth team have got, you know, have started degree courses, you know, so and got scholarships, which is great. But I suppose it's difficult to combine it then if you do go full time and combine that around that. So there are challenges with that, with the courses. So it's not perfect either, you know. And but there are challenges in that regard, you know.
Yeah. Go United full time or part time this year?
That's a good question.
Is that actually part of the issue? That so Bohemians, as you were just pointing out, Stephen, Bohemians are technically part time, but you're training every night of the week.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult, I'd imagine, for a lot of Bohs players to actually hold down a full-time job.
Well, it's just actually easier, because if you're full-time, you're training at 10, half 10 in the morning, so you're going to struggle to go to college or to work. Where, and like myself, you're trying to, if I was to try come out of football and go into something else, like I went to England when I was 15, so I've no leaving cert, I've no third level education. Where you're looking at players now, they could be 20, 21 with a degree, and all of a sudden their options going forward in life, like football, it's a short career, and if you don't make enough money at 35 when you retire, well, you're going to have to go into something. So I think combining both is massive, and obviously, as Stephen alluded to, it's hard as a full-time team to send first-team players to college to do that, because you'll have no one to train, or your numbers will be low. So getting that balancing act is going to be difficult. But we have players that are working full-time, and they're actually starting to build a career for themselves, but yet we're training in the evening. So the balance can be quite good that way. I wouldn't see it as a negative.
Is that then a balancing act? Because obviously you want your players to be well-rounded individuals, and the more educated they are, you're looking at it, the better. But then there is maybe that demand still for instant success.
Yeah, I think that is a challenge. But I think the difference is where players are going to England at 15. As Ian said, he went, and you know, it's very difficult, isn't it? You know, because the clubs in England, they do pay lip service to, they do presentations on educations, but it's rarely followed through.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, there might be exceptions of people who
unless
have,
the 15, 16-year-old themselves has that drive to
know,
go.
it's rarely followed through. So, I mean, you know, staying in your whole family environment, getting your leaving cert, having, you know, and at least, you know, it's a great start for people. And, you know, particularly at the age profile the players are going now, we've seen the players that have gone from the championship or to the championship in Preston, Brighton and so forth, from Dundalk and from Cork and Derry and other places. You know, the age profile is in the 20s now, you know.
We might take a very quick break. It is our Saturday panel. We have Ian Morris from Bohemians, Stephen Kenny, the Dundalk manager, and Alan Murphy from Galway United. We're talking League of Ireland. 53106 is the text number if you want to get any messages in.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
In association with the Air Sport app, allowing you to cast your favourite sporting action from your tablet or mobile phone straight to your TV.
Follow the sun as it slowly sinks behind Kinsale Harbour before resting your gaze on the boats coming in, where the only distraction is the scent of fresh mussels as you sit back to let the moment linger. Let go and embrace the Wild Atlantic way of life. Plan your holiday now on the Wild Atlantic Way.
The Killers return. RDS Dublin, June 26th. The Killers, plus special guests, Franz Ferdinand. Tickets from $69.50 on sale this Friday at 9 a.m. Additional charges may apply, subject to licence. The Killers, plus special guests, Franz Ferdinand. Tickets on sale this Friday.
There's always one stray soccer shirt you forgot to put in the wash. Well, not anymore, because now there's the new Samsung AdWash at Appliances Delivered. A washing machine that lets you open the door when the temperature's under 50 degrees. Genius. And check out the Samsung Family Hub American Fridge Freezer. It's got cameras, so you can look inside from your phone when out shopping. And a built-in screen and speakers to play movies and music. All that in a fridge freezer? Yep. Get the lowest Samsung prices with next-day delivery nationwide at appliancesdelivered.ie.
One of the hardest things about dementia
is how isolating it can be.
So understanding how much your continued friendship really means.
Understanding the value of including people.
And understanding that slowing down to let me gather my thoughts
can actually make all the difference.
It's time to understand together. To stand together with the 500,000 people whose families have been affected by dementia. Visit understandtogether.ie or call 1-800 341 341 from the HSE and our partners.
Looking to add a splash of colour? Well, right now at B&Q there's 5 litres of Dulux Standard coloured emulsion for only €35. Or why not freshen up with 10 litres of Leyland White or Magnolia Matte emulsion for only €12? You can do it when you B&Q it.
The weather. We certainly get enough of it here in Ireland. But sunshine? Well now, sin scéal eile. The fact is we just don't get enough sunshine. So we need to get our sunshine vitamin D from somewhere else. Switch to Avonmore Super Milk and you get all the daily sunshine vitamin D you need in just one glass. Our weather's not super, but that's okay. Avonmore Super Milk is.
Home insurance renewal time again? Price creeping up but don't know who to call? Get a great value home insurance quick quote from AIG by just answering 5 simple questions for an estimated quote in seconds. We'll also give you a €30 one-for-all voucher when you buy. Visit AIG today. We could save you time and money.
Normal underwriting acceptance criteria apply. AIG Europe Limited is authorised by the Prudential Regulation Authority of the United Kingdom and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules.
Winning last year's European Car of the Year award was quite an achievement for the Peugeot 3008 and a first for any SUV. But how do you follow a success like that? Well, by also winning Irish Car of the Year 2018. Test drive the stunning 3008 SUV at your nearest Peugeot dealer and experience for yourself everything that makes it a winner. The Peugeot 3008. Never has an SUV gone so far. See Peugeot.ie for details.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back to our Saturday panel. 53106 is the text number, or leave us a message on Facebook Live. We've Ian Morris from Bohemians, Alan Murphy from Galway United, and the Dundalk manager Stephen Kenny with us in studio. TV coverage has been a big talking point this week. John Caulfield, the Cork City manager, had a pretty detailed presentation of the RTE News Bulletin last Sunday night, and the, was it 8 seconds of coverage for the President's Cup final. Basically just the score being announced, and there was footage was pretty hard to find over the last week or so. He was talking about potentially moving games to a Thursday night. Like, coverage and attendances and the links, and like the League of Ireland's in such a strange situation. It must be the only league in the world whereby clubs seem to often lose money by having your game on television. What are your thoughts on it, Stephen, as to the coverage the League of Ireland is getting?
Yeah, it is that dilemma for clubs. They do, as a manager dealing with some of the clubs I've been managing, when the game is televised, it's bittersweet for them, because they feel that they will lose revenue on the gate, because, and particularly when it was 7 o'clock kickoffs on RTE, and things like that, that they would definitely, the gates would be considerably down, and I think that's it. But I think there's a bigger picture. I think definitely it's good to have exposure. I remember managing in the league even over 10 years ago, and the matches were rare and rare, live games, and I think it's good overall to have live games. I think it's not something we should complain about, but there should be, we should want to be on the TV every week. I think there should be a game every week, but the clubs, in conjunction with the FAI, we're the only country in, probably one of the few countries in Europe that doesn't have a TV deal. That I remember managing Dunfermline, and every time the match was on TV, the club got 6 figures or whatever. You don't know, anyway. So it was, so certainly in and around that, So I think it was, that was back in 2007. It was over 10 years ago. So so that's one of the dilemmas facing all of the clubs. I think TV revenue is just hugely important for the growth of all clubs.
Yeah, what John Caulfield went through last week was the 9 o'clock news, 8 minutes of sport, 2.5 minutes GEA, 30 seconds of ladies football, a minute or so ladies rugby, 2.5 minutes of the Premier League, another minute and a half about the Winter Olympics, and a 4-second slide on the President's Cup. Like, are you looking at that on Sunday night going, we deserve a little bit more than this?
Yeah, well, listen, it's a valid point, there's no doubt, but I think it's the main thing I would say is that it would be important to have live TV games every week. It's a reasonable suggestion to suggest an alternative night than the night the games are on. I think the Soccer Republic, it's good to have a highlight show now, and it's probably good to have it moved from the graveyard slot late at night to prime time TV time, so these are good things.
Yeah.
And these are things we should be pleased about.
Do you feel the league's getting enough coverage?
Well, I think there's 37 Soccer Republic episodes, or whatever you want to call it, coming this year, so that obviously is a plus. I think it's a catch-22, obviously, with revenue, but I mean, our first topic was we were discussing the state of the league. Like, I mean, we want to be able to show that the league is a quality product, which it is. Like, I mean, it has significantly improved in the last 10 years. Like, I mean, now we play some unbelievably attractive football. I mean, I know last night I didn't get to see the game because we played ourselves, but I mean, I know the game was. I mean, you had different pundits kind of giving out about the quality of the game and calling for ambulances and whatever. But I mean, it's the first league game. No one wants to lose the game. I mean. And it's maybe last night wasn't the best visual product. I mean, but Bohs won't care about that today. I mean, but we need that. We need to be able to show that we've got the best. We've got excellent coaches that we have progressed. We're now going to be able to especially on the European stage, to be able to actually show that we're there, and we're there on merit. Like,
yeah. Football is about players. Yeah. And you have to understand that. I think the most important thing is it's about players, and we've seen some great players go on to play for Ireland over the last few years from the league. A whole host of players have gone from different clubs to play for an international team, and I think it's great. It's great visually to see them with their clubs and watch their journey as they grow and become become great international players, and that's something that we should relish, you know.
Yeah.
Why isn't there any TV rights? Is there?
Well, essentially, there wouldn't be any demand. I guess that RTE wouldn't feel that the investment is worth it. That there's no real rival there that are trying to outbid them, which is pretty much the basic tenet of it. And maybe it's got to the stage. The difficulty, I guess, would be is if the league continues to grow and gets better and better, how you get away from that status quo of RTE not having to. Like, it costs RTE a lot of money, I'm sure, to go and actually put the production together around it. And are they getting the viewing figures to match? Like, I'd be interested to see what the viewing figures last night were compared to, say, the Champions League on Tuesday and Wednesday night.
It's important the games are selected for the right reasons as well. You know, sometimes the games are selected probably in the past for convenience, you know, reasons and to fill a quota of games and so forth, you know, because I know they're working around the rugby and so forth. So you know, so it's important like that the game's selected now. But I think with the 10-team league this year, all the games, there's a result hanging in the balance of most games, I would feel. So it should be interesting.
Like Bows are on the TV, I think, twice in the first 3 weeks this year. I mean,
I think it's 4 of the first 6 games between RTE and Ayr or something. Yeah.
So they needed to
win
last
after that
night.
quality product. That's what it is.
Yeah, for sure. On that quality product, then, Ian, like, what do you think is the main hindrance to getting more people involved in the League of Ireland? Like facilities.
In terms of fan base,
stopping people.
Well, I think this year has been, well, for me anyway, since I've been back, it has been the biggest year in terms of social media, in terms of like, if you've seen the papers this week, Wednesday, Thursday, I think the coverage has been fantastic, and social media has been massive. I think the anticipation for the season to start has been huge this year, and you're starting to get a lot of younger fans now coming in, and I think with the introduction of the the underage structures as well, you're getting players coming into clubs, and hopefully if their son is playing or son's playing for 15s, 17s, 19s, that family then becomes part of the club, and it's growing the actual number of fans that are going to want to watch and want to come to games, and that's important. So I think it's starting to build a lot of momentum.
I think you've shown your frustration before, possibly, Stephen, about Oriel Park and the state of it, and now you've had the takeover, and there's obviously money there from the Europa League run, and as a manager, trying to get that balance between, you'd love to invest it all on the playing staff, but also having some sort of a legacy and improving the facilities. Do you still sense that around Dundalk, people would go, like, the facilities just aren't good enough to go up and spend a rainy Friday night watching Dundalk?
Yeah, no, they're not good enough. They really let the team down, the facilities, and I think it's a big letdown, and, you know, this was a big come down for the players, qualifying for the Europa League, doing so well, 12 games, and coming back to the same dressing rooms that they'd been in 7 years ago, and the same ground, and nothing done to it. I think that's been an issue for a number of years. Obviously, there was issues over the ownership of the ground, only resolved in the last year. So I think that has been an issue, and I think it's for away supporters, it's inadequate. For home supporters, it's inadequate. So I think.
What do you mean by that? Is that just covered stands?
Yeah,
the standard of the toilets.
I think you need people want to come to a modern stadium, don't they? But I do think that Oriel Park is. It's a very, you know, it is what it is. It is our home. It's been good to us. It's, you know, it's not about shiny seats as well. It's about passion. The level of passion in the ground can be incredible on nights. And I think that you know, give me that over an empty.
Yeah.
You know, I think. You know, I was talking to Christian. Adojan, the new signing we have, he was playing in Serie B, and he was saying, you know, there's 30,000 seater stadium, the team he's playing with Navarro, but they only get 2,000 and 3,000 at the matches, and every game is nearly like you know, like a pre-season game, you know. So I think to have the level of passion in the grounds that you see is can be incredible, you know. And I think if you're a father or mother bringing your children to that, and you identify with the players every week, and whether it be in Cork or in Derry or in Galway or Dundalk, you know, it can be special.
Like in Galway, obviously, just up the road, you've got the sports ground where Connacht play, and they've got the Greyhound track around there as well, and they've full bar facility. You can probably go have your dinner, the whole shebang, pre-match. Like, do you sense at times that that's a hindrance, that people prefer the entertainment factor that they get going to watch Connacht compared to Galway United, where you're maybe roughing it a little bit more?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it may be a scenario where we may have to try and buy into something like that in terms of trying to, and again in 2018 it's very difficult to maybe merge and get like a kind of a 2 or 3 sports in one arena, because I mean when you look at I mean I know Dundalk were looking at I think the rumours are this week that Peak 6 were going to come in and build a 7,500 kind of a capacity stadium, and that was going to be Can
you confirm that, Stephen?
That's not the case.
I mean, you don't want that either. Maybe, as Stephen said, you want that feeling and that kind of an atmosphere within the stadium as well. And I think you need to, especially back in Galway, you need to be able to. I mean, if we've got small crowds, like, is the stadium the priority? Like, probably not. Is the training facility the priority? Is the underage development the priority? I mean, I know the FAI have come on board and given another 250,000 this week to underage development, which just brings it to, I think, over $1 million in terms of with the UEFA solidarity, 850,000. But like that's where it's at for Galway anyway. Is growing from the bottom up. I think creating an extra stadium or a better stadium at the moment is probably not on a priority, I don't think.
Yeah, Dundalk are, well, obviously creating a better stadium is clearly part of the priority at Dundalk, but with the change in ownership, have you noticed that priorities have shifted in terms of what you should be and what you can achieve on the pitch?
Well, no, it's only in its infancy, really. I mean, the takeover's been happening for a long time, but it's only been completed in the last few weeks. You know, the nature of it, I suppose, it took longer than people anticipated. So. No, we've always set ourselves high standards when we come in. When we come in through the door, we wanted to win trophies and be the best we could be, and try and win the league title. And certainly that hasn't changed because we have new owners.
Is there a danger that we can almost judge ourselves too much on what, say, Dundalk and what Cork and what teams achieve in European football? That, say, if Dundalk or Cork go on a brilliant European run, you get back in Europa League, or one of the teams has to go and qualify for the group stages of the Champions League, that suddenly we think everything's right with the League of Ireland because of that?
Well, it's the biggest stage to play on is European football, so I think the whole league does get behind whatever team is playing in it, because the more success they have, the bigger profile the league gets. So that is the biggest stage to play on, and if we can improve that, obviously the financial rewards for clubs is going to be huge, and hopefully that starts filtering down. But just back on the stadiums, like you're trying to build a match day experience, and like there's some stands you're sat out in the rain as an away supporter, or even as a home supporter, and you're trying to get people to stay there, and even toilet facilities, like some of the facilities are appalling around the place. So I think it is something to be looked at, that you want people to actually go, I'm looking forward to coming here and I'm going to have a good match day experience, and it's going to keep people coming back, which then improves the quality of the league, rather than watching football on the television at home or not getting involved with what's going on in the country's football.
You say if you have that full-on matchday experience, though, you can put up with some of the other stuff. Like I saw somebody commenting last night on Cork City and maybe some of the facilities down there, which are, probably some of the best in the league in certain ways. But again, supporters having to sit out in the lashing rain. But like Leinster are playing in 45 minutes, and 2 of the stands at Leinster there's no cover for them. If it rains, everyone's going to get absolutely soaked. But you never really hear too many complaints, because the rest of the matchday experience is enjoyable.
Yeah. They haven't got as good a chip fan as Daily Mail anyway.
Certainly not as highly publicised now after that. No. Yeah, were sales well up after the celebrations last night?
Ran out of battered sausages, the lot.
We've got a lot of comments coming in on Facebook and on Twitter. Lads, League of Ireland, do you think Waterford have a chance of doing well this season? A lot of work going on behind the scenes, and the RSC was rocking last night. Not getting carried away after just one game. But what do you think of their long-term prospects? Thanks, Davy Allen. I'll ask you that, because the other 2 lads will be coming up against them this season.
Yeah. I suppose geographically it's going to be a difficult place to go to anyway. Again, if travelling to Waterford is going to be somewhere people don't want to go. And there's, reading during the week there, I think they're saying that someone out of the top 6 is going to be in relegation problems because of Waterford are going to probably do well this season. So one of the bigger teams are going to struggle without a doubt, I think. Yeah.
Facebook comment from Winston Smith. Was John Caulfield not right that the media and TV coverage is not good enough? The game in Ireland needs a weekly game on the telly. TV rights would add much more revenue to not just the top teams but all teams in the week in which they would hope and can keep clubs running from week to week. Too many clubs nearly fold every year. As a City fan and have gone through City folding, I feel for all fans whose clubs are on the edge of going under. Well, I think that's kind of what you were saying, Stephen. Ideally, you would have a game on every week. You'd have it as a regular part of people's viewing habits. But getting the revenue from the TV rights is a whole other step that maybe we're not just there yet. Richard Horgan, again, needs to be games on every week. Cork City do great work with all local clubs in Cork. More needs to be done though. My small lad has got a few in his class to support his team, only 9, and doing more than the FAI to support the league. How much resources then in Dundalk go into that link with the community and trying to draw more of a crowd? Or do you feel actually you're almost there, that actually there is a peak of sort of 3,000-4,000 attendance wise that is almost impossible to surpass?
I think we can always do more. I think, Liam Burns is a very good football and community officer. He's terrific, and he's we obviously have players and skills and so forth at various times, but I think we'll look to do that better this year. Even I think we even need to do it probably better. We can always improve things. I think it's very much a community club, Dundalk. And people are very proud of the team and the way it's represented the town, because there were a lot of bad press about the team when they were in the relegation playoff, and there's unpaid wages, all that kind of stuff. They was going through that, and that was only a short time, only 6 years ago now. So it's they're very proud of the way the club have gone on since that, and everyone connected behind the scenes working so hard, because ultimately, okay, we've gone professional now, but ultimately a lot of volunteers drive the club from behind the scenes. And even if I think the new owners are even conscious of that you don't want to lose that volunteer effort, the people who work so hard on behalf of the club in various different ways, and that's a huge thing.
You mentioned there at times, and it's the not too distant past, of struggling to pay wages. When you look at what happened to Bray last season and Athlone, do you get a sense that actually is doing huge damage to the league, that the sort of negative publicity, the turning the league into a bit of a laughing stock at times? Do you get the sense just among maybe not the League of Ireland hardcore, but the general sporting public, that they look at that and go, this is amateur stuff?
Well, I think what I would say is that anyone convicted of match fixing should be banned for life. They should be absolutely banned if they're involved in betting patterns in relation to matches that they're playing in, and if it's in relation to players been involved in any sort of throwing games for profit. I think they should be banned for life. I just have no time for it. I think that denigrates the league. It denigrates the players within the league, for anyone who's involved in it, and I'm just completely against it. And I think the FAI tried to get involved last year and prosecute players, and very hard to prove in relation to, very, very hard to prove. The evidence is difficult to prove. But I do think it was important that it was highlighted in that regard, I think I believe a strong stance must be taken.
Yeah, are you throwing your eyes up to heaven when you hear of what was going on at Bray last season, and players not been paid, and players been set free in the middle of the year?
Yeah, I mean, just talking off air earlier on about the Dylan Connolly one, where he was bought and then a week later he was probably free or whatever. But I mean, it was it's again in 2018, it's ridiculous to be talking about non-payment of wages and betting patterns, or for regular betting patterns, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it can't be a situation where you bite off too much that you can chew. So I mean, if you don't pay, you don't agree to pay players if you can't pay it, and then it's just. It's morally wrong. I mean, it's a football club and that, but it's a business. We wouldn't take that in our daily jobs outside of football. If you turned up for work and you didn't get paid, it just wouldn't be an option.
Yeah, I don't think there was an issue though with Bray. I think they paid every week, didn't they?
I don't think they missed the payment. Yeah,
they didn't miss a payment. So I don't understand what went on around the PR of it. Because I don't think they missed any wages.
Yeah,
I think it was the public statements that sort of you know, that drew everything into it. You know, I think as far as I know, that wasn't an issue. But you mentioned the Athlone stuff and other stuff as well. That, you know, and I think it's difficult to know unless you're close to it. But my overriding feeling is that anyone who's involved in any sort of match fixing should be banned. That's, I would feel strongly on that for life.
I think we'd all echo that. Brought my 11-year-old daughter to a Rovers game. This is a tweet in from Paul Murphy. Even though we sat in the family section, the amount of bad language and hatred directed to Bohs was shocking. Something has to be done if clubs want families to attend games. Kenny, like that's that difficult balancing act between wanting a rivalry and having rivalries being a very good thing, but then making sure that people don't overstep the mark.
Yeah, I don't think it's something you can police in terms of controlling people's language, but obviously with that you're trying to get a family section where you're keeping families kind of together, and then you're keeping the more vocal fans on the other side, but they're more or less the ones that add to the atmosphere of games as well. They're the singers, they get behind the team, so I don't know how you can kind of control that.
Facebook comment from Richard Horgan was thinking the league should run a super weekend of games at the Aviva, 6 clubs one day, great chance to promote the league, play in front of 40,000 fans. Doesn't sound like a bad idea. It's something they do in Super League. I think they bring them up to St James's Park and to Old Trafford, and you get all the teams in, you get all the fans in. You before that, Stephen?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I suppose as a player, you'd like to play in front of 40,000, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So can't see a huge negative on the.
Someone would have to give up a home game, of course. Then you'd have issues over which way the money has been split and who brought the most fans and all that. Ilad's question, can you ask about the Leinster Senior League setup and if the League of Ireland clubs look to scout players from the Leinster Senior League? Do you look to scout players from?
Well, yeah, we took Steo last year from Usher. We brought Danny Grant in from Bangor. He's with our under-19s. So yeah, we'd constantly, like Dave Henderson would be out for ourselves, out watching games every weekend. So it's always in our main objective for our games to be watching every week.
What's the difference in standards, Stephen, generally between, say, League of Ireland, Leinster Senior League? Or does it just depend on the individual?
No, I mean, I remember when I started at Longford, for example, we took a lot of players from Leinster Senior League in the first division that year, and we had a great group that year. You know, the second year we got promoted, and Vinnie Perrott, who's my assistant manager now, we signed him at the time from Cherry Orchard, and there was a whole host of players really come in at that stage, and so of course we've all ties there, you know. Yeah. But it is a big jump between the Leinster Senior League and the top level of the Premier Division now. It's a big jump.
To be fair to Shane Keegan as well in Galway, I mean he's actively. I mean the amount of games he goes to is brilliant. Also, yes, it's a budget thing probably, but I mean last few years he has got a few little gyms like Owen McCormack and that from Ballinasloe. I mean I suppose it's a necessity really where we are, you know.
Just even speaking to people though, you're looking at lads playing Leinster Senior League, there's certainly a hell of a lot of talent there, but if they're in full-time careers and they're successful in their careers outside of football, they won't be able to commit to 3-4 days a week training during the day. So there's things like that come into play as well. Yeah. Trying to convince them to give their job up to
Finishing work early on a Friday.
Exactly, that could be a problem for some people, yeah.
Yeah. Why not have excellent stadiums? 3 of them in Dublin, 2 in the south, 1 in the west, 1 in the north, less cost, better experience. Yeah, that's probably pie in the sky sort of stuff. Really, like, ultimately, who's going to pay for it is the big issue. We've got a big response to this. There's always a huge interest anytime we talk League of Ireland. Before we wrap up then, Alan, hopes, expectations around Galway? You come straight back, you'll score 2 penalties?
2 corners. I mean, to be competitive, the way the league is going to be anyway, it's not going to be like last season where one team can run away, because obviously the 4 teams playoffs and that. So at minimum that would be the goal, and to be, I suppose, to again from underage, from my 17s hat on, is to try and develop youth and to be able to grow our own talent. And
what's success for you as a under-17 coach?
I suppose this season, to look at it and see, I suppose me signing at 36, playing against Adam Rooney, or playing with, Adam Rooney and Ronan Manning, who were both under 17 last year. That has to be success, and to try to get to get those 17-year-olds into the first team atmosphere as quick as you can, but obviously not too early for them. But especially at a first division level, that they can that they could try and get in. Yeah.
Ian, certainly from the outside, it seems like it's a pretty exciting time at Bowls. It's a good club to be in and around.
Yeah, very very exciting. The atmosphere around the club and in the changing rooms is excellent. So I think we're looking at it and we're looking to improve on last year. So we'll from a playing point of view, that's where we're looking, and then from a youth development side, you're looking at, I think we had 8 first team debuts from our underage structure last season, which is a massive success for the club. So if we can improve on that, it'd be some statement. But I think getting your younger age players debuts in the first team is a big goal for myself.
Stephen, all the pressure's on the men at the top, of course.
No, I think it's going to be a marathon season. 36 league games this year, playing each other 4 times. And of course the European games are very exciting as well. We're seeded in the first 2 rounds in Europe, which we never were. We weren't seeded when we had that run of 12 games. We weren't seeded, and so we're seeded. So that doesn't guarantee anything, but it's interesting, and so there's a lot of games this season. So a lot to look forward to.
Are you in favour of the 10-team setup? Does it get pretty repetitive as the season goes on when you're playing everyone 4 times?
I think I have some sympathy with the teams who are relegated, like a club like Galway, who relatively new stadium, done great work, going up, working hard, and then putting a lot into the community, and then getting relegated. And it is really tough existence sometimes in the first division, for clubs. And Dundalk were in it for 7 years, as we said. So it's so I do have sympathy in that regard, and it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah,
they're in it, But you look at Waterford, for example, who've come up, and all of a sudden you see the team. So teams from the cities can really grow, but it is about raising standards, and in that regard, there's no weak teams, and there'll be a tough match every week, and points at stake every week. So it will be very competitive this season.
Yeah, it does feel as though you in particular have, again, that sort of balancing act and almost been stuck in a bit of limbo in terms of we spend so much time looking at the new ownership and the takeover and the possibilities for Dundalk, and again talking about getting back into the Europa League group stages, or hopefully at some stage the Champions League group stages. You're also looking thinking, well, we didn't win the league last season. You got to focus on that first and foremost.
Yeah, well, we came into the club 5 years ago with nothing. Like we built this club with small resources overall, and with players who at that time the vast majority had never won a trophy before, and won their first league, and we built on it from there. And I think so we started with nothing. I think the takeovers could be, it's a new development for the club. It's only in its infancy, so it's Mike Tracy, the chairman of the board, he flew in Chicago last night for the game, and he was only here last week, so very, very committed. The whole ownership group, they are committed, and their ambitions and so forth. But there hasn't been any real changes in relation to our working day, really. I think we probably still have the squad we might have had anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of way? So there hasn't been any, in that regard at the moment. I think so that's it will over a period of time you'll see changes, I'm sure.
All right, great stuff. Well, very best of luck to all 3 of you this season, and thanks a lot for coming in. We'll take a very quick break, and then we're going to begin our build up to Leinster against Scarlets.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
In association with AIR. Don't miss live Allianz League's GAA action this month on the AIR Sport Pack, the home of Irish sport.
Bobby's Late Breakfast.
This Sunday, BP Fallon joins me to talk about his fascinating life chasing the Beatles and hanging out with Led Zeppelin. Lily Higgins brings in some baked breakfast goodies. I chat to exuberant sailor Tom Dolan about crossing the Atlantic all by himself. Plus, Inglorious Bastards is in the cultural toolbox.
Bobby's Late Breakfast
with Emirates.
Join me this Sunday morning at 9 and let me ease you in